Everybody, this is Mechalink. I am back briefly to tell you that Final Fantasy Legend 2 is a go, so everybody pay attention to Gyre as he chases his character's father throughout the world.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed puwexil doing the Final Fantasy Legend.
Final Fantasy Legend, the one and only, right?
Yes, the only Final Fantasy Legend that was made until Final Fantasy Legend 2 was made and came out here. This is going to be our next game, and I'm actually at the very end of the game here for a reason. That's because, unlike the Final Fantasy Legend, where we were doing RNG manipulation to control where we were in encounters, I want to have no manipulation at all. This is a category called Glitchless that does not let you use any of the glitches in the game and also doesn't let you do any UR manipulation. So what I'm just going to do is walk around here so you can see some of the great effects here at the end, hear that awesome music. We're in a battle, we have no idea where further battle is going to be, but we do know, hopefully, what our main character class is and the name of our main character. Can you tell me those pieces of information?
I absolutely can. We have a class with 215 mutant. Has won a class bid war.
Nice.
And what is the name of our main character?
The name of our main character with $255 running up the score, it's Dan.
All right. So
capital D, capital A.
About a mutant girl named Dan and her dad. And with that, let us begin. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. And welcome to the Final Fantasy Legend 2, where one night you wake up and your dad gives you this little present before going out the window, never to be seen again for many, many years. Till one day at breakfast, you wonder, where did that dad guy? He used to be around the house all the time.
Yeah.
We should probably go find him. And this is the real Final Fantasy Legend 2. And you can already talk about some of the differences that you see from the first Final Fantasy Legend here. Go ahead and let you
sure.
talk about some of the things that are already coming up that are new.
Yeah, well, probably the most significant thing that kicks off right away is that there's actually more races that you can play as in this, well, maybe just one, actually, compared to Final Fantasy Legend 1, which is robots. So I believe just like this way the first game starts, we choose our starter character and then we fill out in the rest of our party, only you're actually required to here instead of it being technically optional. And then I believe Gyre is going to be doing a female human, a baby D, which is a type of monster, and then a robot.
Robots are awesome.
Yeah. And then kind of like with the first game, this game doesn't have traditional levels or experience points. The way you get stronger is kind of specific to your race. Humans can randomly have their stats go up after winning fights. Then mutants, and then they use weapons primarily, and then mutants have special skills that they can randomly learn when you win fights, and then kind of how good those skills are depends on how tough the fights are. Monsters evolve by eating meat, just like the first game, and then robots are new addition. They're pretty special in that their equipment or their stats are completely based on what kind of equipment they have on. When you put a piece of gear onto a robot, it becomes kind of like a monster skill in that you have kind of regenerating usages of it, and then which specific items you have on also raise that robot's stats by kind of fixed amounts based on the equipment. And then another new mechanic in Final Fantasy Legend 2 is guest characters. So you have your kind of core group of 4 characters, and then for kind of certain segments of the game, you have a 5th party member, who in this case is Mr. S, who said, "See you again."
Yeah, we got one of our slimes from the Final
ago.
Fantasy Legend to help us out here at the start. This is just an introductory tutorial dungeon. Gets you started with the game overall, and Mr. S is really overpowered for your team, so he's pretty able to carry you throughout this dungeon. But we will very quickly be losing our guest character, and so I'm going to be trying to get some items I can pick up for my robots, so I can boost up our stats a bit. Because we picked the mutant start, I actually have a little bit less in terms of agility at the start of the game, as well as less resources, and so it's going to be more difficult for the first 15 or so minutes. So I will be doing a little bit of an extra shopping trip to make up for that.
Yeah.
I can also try and get some meat here. It would be really lovely. I'm not going to force it. But let's see. Are we eating well today? Oh,
we
yes.
are. Nice.
We are going to be going with the meat route, and by eating that meat there, I'm going to be increasing my monster's agility, which is a pretty significant thing. I think I'll still do the backup strats just in case, because this is how I would be typically practicing for
Hey, who's that?
The monster route. It's probably somebody that looks like our dad, but he can't be our dad.
Yeah.
Our dad hasn't been seen for years.
Yeah, and then Gyre was talking about the kind of agility and how that's based on his party, too. Agility is a really important stat in this game, too, because that governs your success rate at running away from encounters. And there's some kind of interesting mechanics with it, too, in that the fifth party member slot kind of has phantom stats assigned to it when there isn't actually a guest character in there. And when there's no guest character, you kind of effectively have 100 agility for your fifth slot. And then when you run away from a fight, your party's kind of total agility is summed up and then used for a calculation. And then when you have that huge boost in agility from the empty fifth slot, that more or less guarantees being able to run, which kind of gives this run a very different flow from the run of the first game when you're able to. I guess one is that you're able to run away a lot more easily, and two is that death is a lot less punishing too, because when a character dies in this game, they get back up with 1 hit point afterwards instead of risking permadeath, basically. So that means that we're not really going to be seeing a lot of saves coming in this run. We'll probably see a few safety saves here and there just in case of hopefully no tech problems or anything like that, but.
Yeah, just in case the power goes out in the hotel, I want to have some backup saves, but typically I wouldn't be saving until more than an hour into the game. And like puwexil said, the running is going to be very different here. It's your total agility versus the enemy's total agility, plus a random number between 1 and 50. So if you're more than 50 agility faster than the enemy, you get a guaranteed run. That 100 agility for the guest character being empty, or for having a dead character, which is also the case very quickly for a lot of our frontline characters. They're going to be killed off pretty fast. Then you can get a guaranteed run. But with guest characters, you're going to slow down a lot. And that's why I picked up a whole bunch of agility boosting items for my robot. Every one of those bows was +2 agility. Rapier was +4 agility. The monster getting the meat drop was +12 agility. You can add that up and you're getting pretty close to being right around that special mark where you can get runs every single time. And it's not the end of the world if we get a can't run here and there, but there are certain fights, especially later on, where failing to run is basically a party wipe. Yeah, and even party wiping for most of the game isn't really that bad too. I mean, well, I won't say much in case it actually happens, but yeah, hopefully we don't see it. But there's actually a whole mechanic around it. It's in many ways kind of the predecessor to Mystic Quest. You can see it with the auto revives at the end of battles. You can see it with the retry mechanic that happens if you have a party wipe. And this team that went and did Saga 1 and Saga 2 and Saga 3 also went on to do Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. So there's a lot of heritage between
saved the best for last.
The mainline Final Fantasy games, between some of these side games. Like, you can see the creative ideas that are bouncing around inside of Square's development teams, because they put a development team on a project, and they'll then move it to a different project, which sometimes is in the same series line, sometimes it's going to be a different line, but they're going to carry the same people with them, and they'll have a lot of kind of cross-pollination that way.
Yeah. And I guess we haven't really talked too much about the story yet, other than just than our dad and kind of searching for him. But kind of the overarching story is that there's a treasure basically that's called the Magi. That treasure is split into 77 pieces. Yep. And our dad gave us one piece when he jumped out the window earlier, called the Prism, which lets you kind of lets you find other pieces of Magi. But we're basically looking for our dad kind of through looking for the treasure, which we know he's looking for too. So right here, we're in this kind of secret ruins called the Relics of the Ancient Gods, where kind of a sage named Ki told us there were pieces of Magi to be found. So we just came in here and kind of found some nasty people trying to steal the Magi, and then
luckily Magi are extremely heavy, so they couldn't get very far. But we have recovered the Magi as requested, and Magi are not just a quest item in the game. They kind of use the Magi replacing a lot of the keys that we had back in Final Fantasy Legend 1. But you can also equip them, and some of the Magi that sound like they are stats, well, they're going to boost your stats. If it sounds like it's a spell, it's probably going to let you give that spell. And if it sounds like equipment from a Final Fantasy game, like a Mazmune or an Aegis Shield, it's that piece of item. So they're very, very different purposes for each of the 77 pieces that you can have in here. In fact, I'm going to put on some of these Magi right now. So I'm going to put on the Mana Magi for my monster, which increases my magic ability. Speed for my robot, because we want our robot to be really, really fast. And we'll get more copies of these Magi later on in the game, and when you get more copies of the same stat boosting one, what it'll just do is boost that stat even higher. So we just don't need to adjust that again for a long time. What we do know is get Key on our team. And Key,
Yeah.
as we explained, the Magi are extremely heavy, and Key is going to be very, very slow. So even with all of these agility boosting items, I've put on 6 items that all boost my agility, and I put the Magi on my route to boost my agility, and the monster agility got boosted. We're possibly still going to have camp runs.
Yeah, that's really the main source of randomness in the early parts of the run here, is just because you start out with Mr. S, and then you have to do the zombie disco dance party dungeon here, also known as Ashura's Base. Hey, where have we heard that name before?
Yeah, it seems very familiar, and just like the guards back in the Final Fantasy Legend, these guards are pretty good. They don't move as fast, you don't see that double-step teleport, but they still have turns that are faster than yours, so they can pretty easily block you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then we have to take Key with us into this dungeon, and yeah, Key's agility is pretty bad. So we go from having 100 agility from an empty slot, which gives us more or less guaranteed runs, to very not guaranteed runs.
And we say Key's agility is bad, but our mutant, I think, has 2 agility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a while before the mutant really gets her time to shine, potentially, too, just because, again, mutants randomly learn skills when you win certain types of fights, and we haven't really done that yet.
In fact, we have not done any fights for quite some time, but we are coming up on the mini-boss for Ashura's Base here. That'll be the first time that we actually have a required battle. The ones I did back in the first cave were just so I was going to get fewer can't runs, and also so I could get a little bit of cash so I could buy things for my robot. But technically, you didn't have to do anything up until that baby worm fight where we got the meat drop, and then the fight around the corner here.
I'm always a fan of the googly-eyed lizards, too, here. The sprite work in these games.
The sprite work in this game is amazing. Like, they took the graphics from the Final Fantasy Legend, they cleaned them up a bit, so you can see, like, they're just a bit bigger, they're a bit more detailed, and they're way, way funnier in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Alright, there's the Rhinoceros. He's the boss of Ashura's Base. I don't know why they put a Rhinoceros in charge, but you know what? We're not asking questions.
And this is where we also see one of the reasons why we're trying to stack as much agility boosting stuff on our robot as possible, because then that happens, because there's actually certain weapon to Bonsai.
If it's a load-bearing Rhinoceros,
Yes.
now the entire base is going to collapse, and this is the second tower that Ashura has lost in 15 minutes.
Yeah, but yeah, there's certain types of weapons that are actually, that their damage formula is based on agility instead of strength, so we're going to be capitalizing on that heavily, basically, by stacking agility boosting gear on the robot and then using agility-based weapons to do lots of damage quickly.
All right, Key is too heavy. She cannot go in the beanstalks. We're going to leave her behind here in our homeworld. And this is replacing the tower. There is this kind of mystic beanstalk that you're climbing up here, and these lead to all the various worlds connected together. And it's a really neat mechanic for giving you progression without being really too open-ended about where you can go. You need a certain number of Magi to get through the different gates here. And this is now into Ashura's real world.
I like how much meaner looking that plant is compared to the first game.
Yeah, the garlic.
Yeah. Slimes only have one eye, though, instead of 2 eyes and a mouth.
And this is a difficult world where you're pushed around by shifting sands. You can't see where you're going, but since I know where the real tower is, I'm going to take a backdoor entrance over there. So it allows me to skip over doing a lot of the questing here in the second world. We'll do basically all the required quest flags, because it is a glitchless run. We can't skip over anything that is absolutely mandatory, but certainly there's a lot of side things. Just like there are side areas in the Final Fantasy Legend that we just never went into. And this is a large part of the reason why that you can just shrink down the time it takes to do these games, because you're just shooting right for the main objective at all times, and you're never doing any kind of grinding or level building. You're like just going right at the next thing constantly.
Mm-hmm. And then just using good routing with the tools the game gives you, with the kind of the unconventional SaGa leveling system, in order to get stronger kind of as you go. If the game lets you.
Yeah.
Don't know, it's not always up to you.
You know, while we're climbing up this tower, just like we climbed to the previous tower, why don't we have our host tell us about some of the incentives that we have for this event here?
Thank you. We have a lot of donations to go through, so First, the Melmon Tourism Board $100 that I tried to read before. Hello, Gyre. Thank you and your community for your kind donations to the Melmon Relief Fund over the years. With your support, we've relocated the Great Melmon Tire Fire a further mile west. This should increase the visibility in town by about 27% while preserving the haunting red glowing sunsets Melmon is famous for. Also, thank you for your kind words encouraging tourism here. Yes, there may be a distinct rotten egg smell. Please remember to attribute it to our delightful hot springs. While we are aware that certain lawyers refer to them as pits of boiling mud, we still think some of your lava-loving viewers could enjoy visiting them. Smolderingly yours, the Melmon Tourism Board. P.S. Sadly, the banana trade continues unabated, and being a seaside town, we suspect the dolphins are responsible. Please do what you can to bring these foul porpoises to justice.
We just got a smoking party member by the name of Mask, too.
I mean, he looks a lot like your dad, but he wears a mask, so he's clearly somebody else.
Clearly somebody else, yeah. There's plenty of those Indiana Jones style hats out there. They were on sale.
Literally, Key recognizes your dad just by the description that he wears a hat. Like, no one else in the world wears a hat.
Yeah, like that, what we're wearing doesn't count as a hat. It's more like a tiara or something.
Yeah, the skeleton wearing the hat, he doesn't count for the eyebrows, but she definitely knows it was your dad.
Got our very confused-looking chocobo there.
Speaking of your dad, he's put in $20 and says, don't listen to Gyre and his lies. I actually spent 10 years in the institution of Melmon to learn how to become a better father. The citizens of Melmon have taught me to value the relationship with my daughter, and I cannot thank Melmon enough, though I wonder why does it smell like a tire fire around here. Yeah. Donation goes to Runner's Choice.
Well, we bet that chain to Echoes.
We have not.
We should keep putting donations towards that.
Yeah. Sounds great.
So we meet poor Ashura here, who was a pretty big shot in the first game, but kind of failed to protect two towers now, and has been demoted for his incompetence. And instead of being the kind of next to last boss, is instead the first major boss of the game.
He's only got something about birds here, so we'll try and figure out what's going on. And this is also the first time where you actually do have a serious threat in the game. Ashura has a move called Six Arms. Hopefully he doesn't hit the robot with that. He also has a move called Flame, which will basically roast the entire party. But if he gives you a good first turn, then you're in pretty good shape for the rest of the fight.
All right, nice.
Ashura is done.
Mask is one of the rare, kind of somewhat useful fifth characters, too, at least for the Ashura fight.
It's very similar to Mystic Quest, where even though you're the legendary hero, it seems like the guest characters are always supposedly stronger than your characters. But because we got a super-powered robot, it's going to look like our characters are pretty strong, too.
Then Gyre also picked up some extra chests in Ashura's tower, too, that he's not actually putting on, and those are actually just to sell for cash, too, because kind of unlike the run of the first game, there's a lot more shopping that's going to be happening here. There's just more good stuff that we can buy in shops to supplement what we find.
Just taking a safety save in case we have any issues here at the event. Again, we normally don't even save for the vast majority of the game because there's a retry mechanic. If your party gets wiped out, you'll have a little scene where you go to Valhalla and wake up and you meet Odin. But if you get all the way to the end of the game without ever doing that, we'll get a little bit of a different interaction with him. And we're hoping that happens.
Much faster interaction, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice backup, but it does cost you 2 minutes or so if you get it. We're going back past Ashura's world. You get warped back to your home world, so you have to kind of keep track of where you are, going through all these little beanstalk areas. And now we're going to go on to our third world, which is going to be Giant's World. So here's a new spot here. Trying to figure out what this micronizing device that Key is looking for is going to be, because, of course, if you're thinking about shrinking yourself down to tiny size, you think about giants. They're very tiny. But before we get to that, there is a shocking surprise. It's our dad. We have finished the game already. The quest has been solved. Dad has been returned, except no, he needs more milk. Dad is going to go off another quest, and I guess we get a second present, so we'll have to keep going.
Yeah, we haven't quite found the treasure yet.
One day we'll catch up to him.
We go into this very oddly shaped house.
Yeah, this is actually the back of the bar. Going to connect in and talk to the bartender from the other side of the bar. He gives us some information about where the Giant's goods are coming from. So now we know that Johnny is the one importing them, which is very suspicious that Johnny knows how to get Giant's goods. We'll have to see if Giants and Johnny have something as a deeper connection. I like how there's kind of like very different types of storylines in Final Fantasy Legend 2. It's not just all about kind of going off and doing some combat-based rescue mission or attacking people. There's more variety compared to the original Final Fantasy Legend, or the different activities that you do. And you can also see that the game has been significantly expanded in size. You can also see that Johnny is definitely a giant.
Yep.
Don't deny it, Johnny.
Yeah, they did a very good job of just giving this kind of the general feel of like a treasure hunt, basically, of an adventure to really exotic places looking for treasure. I call hacks on that being an amoeba, by the way, too.
Look, they're doing their best, okay? And Jenny gives the information that there is a secret passageway up to Giant Town. And you also see another mechanic here, which I briefly mentioned, and that is the Magi are being used as a gate to your questing progress to the game. So whenever you see the word opened pop up, that means it's checking the count of Magi. They have to make sure that I've found all the ones up until that point in time. You can't miss any Magi in order for the story to progress. And they do that as a way to make it so that, without being really blatant in your face, a game that you're meant to play on a handheld, where you're probably, putting it down after 30 minutes, you're not going to play all the way through typically, you're going to get lost very easily. So they have ways to kind of guide you back onto the storyline path. And the Magi is one of the ways of doing it, because you just can't wander that far before you realize that, oh, you've missed something that's important.
Yeah, and I know just that mechanic, too, is a big part of why glitched runs of this game are very different and a lot shorter, too, is you're able to use glitches to glitch out the number of Magi that the game thinks you have and then kind of break the locks on those doors without fulfilling what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, there's many glitches in this game, and so Glitchless just kind of completely sidesteps all of the various issues for how you do it. And so you have to kind of be a lot more true to the spirit, I think, about what the game was kind of intended to be for the exploration for it. But there is our micronizing device. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just said I find it interesting too, because there's a lot of glitches that are in this version of Final Fantasy Legend 2, but in Final Fantasy Legend 1 there really aren't any. I mean, all the fun glitches are Japanese only. Like the closest thing you could really call a glitch in the first game is the saw.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it possibly is because they try to reuse as much as they could from the original Final Fantasy Legend. And whenever you're kind of trying to extend something, it's a lot easier to miss when things are going wrong. Like, you'll notice there is quite a lot of reuse in terms of the graphics. You'll see some familiar friends and faces. You'll hear some sounds that you might recognize from the first game as well. But there's also some things that are like really hidden. Like, they reused the vehicle when we were cruising around in Suzaku's world. They repurposed that as a dragon in here, which has hilariously broken properties. If you ever do the glitch run of that, that'll be completely destroying the game, but you will not get to see that today. I'm just going to take a quick pit stop here to go and buy a gun. We have been mostly using our robots' agility-based weapons, but there is a group of enemies coming up for the next mini-boss, and we don't have a great way of dealing with groups. So I'm going to get this as basically one fight-only rental. Put that over one of our bows that we're not going to need.
Robot's packing major heat now.
Yeah, you can basically kind of ignore all kinds of restrictions on the robot. So normally a character can only have one helmet on or wear one piece of armor or use one sword. The robot's just like, yeah, put whatever on.
Yeah, the only real restriction, I think, is just having 8 slots, basically, for pieces of equipment. And beyond that, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, all of your characters have an 8-slot limitation, which the mutant eventually is going to fill up 4 of those slots with magical abilities. We have still not gotten a single magic ability drop, but it'll randomly happen at some of these fights. Yeah. And we might see one at the end of Key's body here, but the idea is we've shrunk ourselves down to tiny size. You'll notice that this map is very similar to a body. They did a neat job kind of representing it when you go into like the hand here on the side. You got a map that's going up into the left hand and things like that, but there is basically 6 of these areas, then there's the head, so it's a lot of walking around. This is a great time probably for the host to tell us about some of the donations and upcoming incentives.
I'd love to. We've got lots of donations. We have Anonymous with $15 saying, love seeing the Final Fantasy Legend and Final Fantasy Legend 2 run by 2 of the best runners. We have Gyre, parentheses, not the runner, with $20 saying, hey there, username doppelganger. I've had more than one person mistake me for you over the years, and then I have to tell them I'm unfortunately not an amazing RPG speedrunner. Sorry for
Change
taking.
that. Yeah. Pick up an RPG.
Yep. Sorry for taking the name on Discord, but it's only fair. You beat me to it on Twitch, so I had to turn it back on you. Good luck with Final Fantasy Legend 2, and that person's donation went to Runner's Choice, appropriately for a doppelganger.
Keep them coming. We got a while in here. I'm also
Yeah.
looking around to see if there is an opportunity to try and get some abilities for my Esper, but I'm not seeing any here right now, so
Yep.
it'll be a while.
Cassini 2K4 put in $15 and says, because I always fall asleep during the later parts of the stream, I have no direct evidence that Gyre has ever played this game before. So best of luck on your first ever run of FFL2, Gyre.
Hopefully it goes well. Thank you very much for those donations.
Yep, LLK with $5 says, Final Fantasy Legend is so confused. That Red Bull is a Chasmosaurus, and that Rhino is a Centrosaurus. Ah! Also, please donate to the incentives, people. We have WTJag with $50. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Sipple Joe 24 with $15. Good luck today on the run. Always appreciate your amazing work with the Final Fantasy. Always a wonderful time. Oh, and Agama pepperoni goes well with pizza, with some ranch, of course. I deal with anxiety on the dailies, so I'm happy to be donating to Nami. Good luck, and above all, have fun. Alright. And one more. No. Wait.
You can keep going for a while if you want to talk about some of the upcoming games and incentives. That's great too.
I do. Sorry, Dad's donation showed up again for some reason.
Terrorists, by the way.
Yes, that's what I was referring to with my coughing earlier. Just some terrorists deciding to make me cough. So yeah, as mentioned, we have a number of open donations. We have Romancing SaGa 2 Remaster, choosing the final character, either the Final Empress or Final Emperor. Final Empress is winning at the moment. You can choose mech color and Chained Echoes. Again, purple is at 95, blue at 50, green at 25, and orange and red at 0. You got some time to get to that, both this run and the Romancing SaGa 2 Remaster run. That Chained Echoes Super Boss fight is up to 785 of 1,000, so we've still got some distance there, but we have made some progress. And then beyond that, we have the fourth companion in Baten Kaitos 1 HD. We have Savnia at 25 and Linde at 15. The 200% speed incentive in Baten Kaitos for the final boss at 39 of 250. The shampoo bottle at 33 of 750. And Name the Spirit, all from Baten Kaitos 1 HD. Name the Spirit being at Bafan for 15 and Macho Man at 10. And we are all here gathering that money for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Health. NAMI Helpline is a free US-based nationwide peer support service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with mental health conditions, their family members, caregivers, and mental health providers. The NAMI Helpline is available Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time by a phone call, text, and live web chat. To reach the NAMI Helpline, please call 1-800-950-6264 or visit nami.org/help to access all NAMI Helpline resources and contact information. Yeah, Key's body is quite the walk.
Yeah, I don't know if we actually explained what we're doing inside here too, by the way. But when we beat Ashura to try to kind of free Key's world, I guess which is also ours from Ashura, kind of clued us in that the reason why Key has magical healing powers is because she has pieces of magi inside her body, and that he'd already sent monsters, tiny little monsters inside Key's body to try to kill her and take the magi. So. We just went on a quest in order to find giants that had shrunk down into normal-sized people and kind of use their shrinking technology to shrink ourselves, then go into Key's body and get the magi and I guess not kill her in the process. I
mean, it seems like it'd be pretty fatal, and also she has eaten a lot of horses. But whatever it is she's been going through, it's going to work out. You know, we've been to the left hand, we've been to the right hand, we've been to the heart, we've been to the stomach, we've been to the left foot, and now we're in the right foot, which is the last of the Magi that we have before the head opens
it's our
up.
pinky toe or something that had a Magi in it.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird because if you look at how the hands and the feet are arranged, like something's on backwards somewhere, which is probably why she's really bad at running from things.
Yeah.
But we have hopefully gotten all of them, and again, because the game will helpfully tell you if you have missed any Magi, we should get a pop-up if that is not the case very quickly. We'll be going into Key's head and doing some invasive brain surgery with our robot guns. And this will be our next try to get a skill drop on our mutants. About 1 in 4 chance. And because the power of the enemy determines the power of the skills that you get, right now they're still all pretty weak, including some that are really bad, like you can learn how to be weak to fire, which is definitely not a helpful skill to learn. We'll hopefully get something. We get 6 phagocytes, so we're somewhere in the middle for phagocyte quantity. You get 4 to 8 at this fight. Getting 6 means I'll have a little bit less money. All right, Dan learns how to use ice, which is a move, and we will say goodbye to Key. She is too slow to catch up, and we will never see her again.
Yeah, we skipped some text there, too, by buffering, walking away from Key before she could talk to us.
Yeah, she wants to tell us all about her fun times while we were inside her body, but we just ran away, and that just gets rid of that dialogue. That's why there's the happy music playing, though, that it was supposed to be over top of a cutscene.
Yeah. Back to that phagocyte fight, too. There's quite a few mini-boss encounters in this game where the number of enemies in the fight is randomized, and almost all of them, the less is better, but that phagocyte fight is kind of the exception to that, where the number of them that there are doesn't matter, really, because we're using a gun that hits an entire group, and then just the more of them there are, the more money we get out of it.
Yeah, money is very tight in this because I'm not doing any of the random encounters, so I will have only the money I get from bosses as well as from items that we pick up. Gonna go back through Ashura's world here, then back through Giant's world. We got warped all the way to our home world, and we don't have travel spells until much, much later in the game. So we gotta go and keep going until we have made forward progress to a brand new area. And this is gonna be Apollo's world. And just like your home world served as a hub for a little while, this is gonna serve as your next hub, and then they eventually just stop using hubs altogether, but they have this as a concept for like about the first half of the game that you'll kind of keep revisiting one specific world where a lot of the action takes place.
Yeah, this is where we start getting a little more cued into kind of the main connecting story arc to these worlds too. That I think we heard about back in the prologue too, which is that there's people out there kind of trying to use the Magi in order to become new gods, including this guy Apollo, who you may recognize as a random encounter sprite from the first game that I ran into a couple times.
I mean, he can't be bad. He's very tall and he's got fabulous hair.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely very trustworthy. Also his own theme song, which is...
yeah. clearly he's up to all benevolence there. But yeah, he basically just gives us some clues on where to find Magi in his world, and I think we more or less can do them in whatever order we want.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to be doing it with the route that I would typically do for the human playthrough, actually. There is a different order that you would have if you wanted to be really gambling with the Espers, that you would be getting one of the superpowered skills very quickly, but it's a 1 in 128 chance, so probably not a likely thing for the marathon today. We might give it a try or two, but I think we will probably have to go with what the human route would do, which is doing the undersea volcano first. It's filled with delicious blueberry lava, and unfortunately, like superior cherry-flavored lava, this lava does not keep the encounters away, so we're going to still have all the random fights going through here.
Yeah, and I do, after spending a lot of time with the first game, too, I do appreciate that they have this kind of shimmering effect when you're underwater, too, because we spent a lot of time underwater in Ryu's world in the first game, and I said, you just have to take my word for it that we're underwater, because I hadn't quite figured out how to visually represent that yet.
They also have flashing whenever you're on damage tiles, so that you know that you're taking damage. Is another thing which is a nice improvement from the first game. Like overall, like they kind of figured out like all the small things that were kind of missing or not quite working right, especially the meat drops. Those were given a very massive overhaul about how meat and meat eating works in this game, which is why we're not eating a lot of meat for the first or half or so of the game. They were on to us, and now we have to have other ways of becoming really powerful. Like getting a Magi here. So 3 more Magi that is going to be added into our collection, which is a Magi called the True Eye. and the tree eye helps you see well, and you're about to see why seeing well may not be the best idea. So that is the undersea volcano. We're going to go to the Cave of Light next, which is our second one. Mountain Cave is going to be our third one, and again, if we're doing the more aggressive Esper route, which would use 2 Espers, you'd be actually doing the Mountain Cave first.
Yeah, and again, that's just because the mini-boss at the end has a very, very low chance to give you a really, really good skill that would speed up the rest of the cleanup in this world.
All right, so don't look at the floor, and then everything will be fine.
It's not too bad when you're moving south, but
I think I think moving down is the worst.
Oh, okay.
Down is horrible. Like left and right is fine. I think up's kind of okay, but down is not good.
Yeah, they were really, really flexing here on showing all the innovations they'd made and stuff they could do on the Game Boy hardware.
Yeah, they often use animation in the borders in order to give you more visual distinction, so you can kind of clearly see where you're able to walk and where you're not able to walk. But in this one instance, they put it on the floor instead of on the walls, and that was definitely a mistake. Grab a couple more items here that we'll sell off for cash. Again, money very, very important here, and I'll be probably picking up one backup item in the Mountain Cave after this, because we only had 6 Phagocytes, which is a little bit on the low side. But there's a pretty easy backup for that one. Money is only really, really dangerously tight at the very end of the game. That's because of a bug that we'll talk about towards the end when we get there. But for right now, just enjoy the soothing, relaxing background, where nothing at all bad is happening right now.
Yeah, and we pick up a lightsaber too.
Legally, it's called a laser sword.
Okay. Yes.
It is actually just called a lightsaber in Japanese, though.
While we watch one of the disco dungeons, we have Chess Jerk sending $20 Nami's way with "Glad I got home in time for the FFL2 run. Good luck, Gyre. Put this towards whatever puwexil wants." Which is still the same thing.
Chained Echo Super Boss, please.
Chained Echo Super Boss, which is at 790 out of 1,000. So still got some distance there.
Ooh, we got ambushed here. So this is a mechanic that first starts in this world. It's kind of rare in Apollo's world because this is the only dungeon that has it and the only floor, too, that has it. But ambushes are a monster ability called Surprise. And if the monster has a surprise ability, then they have a 25% chance of ambushing you. You can get that because, you know, SaGa games let you get monsters in teams. So if you have, it's a 50% chance of ambushing them. We might get it on our Esper as well, since that is something that they can learn. But you don't get the counter skill called Warning for a couple worlds. And if we don't get the really good skill on Dunitus, who is the boss of the next dungeon, getting Warning is actually pretty good, because then you can guarantee that you're not going to have any more ambushes a little bit sooner than you would normally have it.
Yeah, because like we mentioned earlier, this game does have for most of the story, has a built-in retry mechanic where if you die, you meet a god named Odin who basically for promising to fight him someday will give you the strength to get up and fight again, basically. And that's nice, but it does also mean that if we do meet Odin early, that triggers a lot of extra dialogue when we eventually go to Odin's world. So in addition to the time loss from having to watch the cutscene and retry, we lose some more time later too if we see that.
But yeah, that retry mechanic is why if you watch a speedrun, like, they just never save. And even if you weren't trying to like super optimize, the fact that you can do the retry and the odds of dying in most of the fights are pretty low means that you actually lose time saving for most of the game. But the end of the game, they take that away. And that's one thing that I don't really like about the retry mechanic. In Mystic Quest, you have it all the way to the final boss. And it's something that you kind of get reliant on, and you kind of build your way of playing the game around it. But because you lose it in this game, there's going to be these jumps in difficulty at various points. That's one of the ones. Some of the ones are just going to be kind of the bosses, which for the most part have been kind of pushovers for the time being, but they will get much, much tougher with time. That rocket there is just a backup item for the extra cash from the Phagocytes, so we're good on money again. And now we can go to the boss of this dungeon, who is hopefully finally going to give us a decent skill. Ice isn't terrible, but we're never going to get a use out of it.
Medusa's dressed a lot snazzier in this game, too, with those kind of shawls and stuff on her arms.
Yeah, like a lot of the upgrades. The slime probably one of the ones that's a downgrade.
Yeah.
It lost its really funny face, but
We get the googly-eyed lizard, another substitute, like right there.
Yeah.
And that sword that looks like it's got a really bad joke to tell us or something.
that sword definitely has some puns. Ooh, no encounters on the fun slide going down there, so we have had a good walk here so far. We're going to meet a guest character for a very short time named Lynn. She fell down the fun slide and now is being trapped behind this murder robot who, unlike our murder robot, is very rude and does not get out of the way. So we're going to teach him a lesson.
Since we're fighting just one enemy now instead of a group, we want to switch back to one of our agility-based weapons.
Unfortunately, we did not get a skill off of Dunamis, so that was our best chance of getting a really cool skill. Venus, who is the boss of the next major section after this, can also give us the same ability, but by then you're not getting as much value out of it.
Yeah, and the Esper does, or the mutant does have to be alive at the end of the fight to, I believe, to learn skills too, which doesn't always happen.
Now, we just saw that our dad was hanging out in Lynn's house, which, you know, makes us really angry. So we're going to do some anger shopping here and get some upgrades for our robot. Let's see. I'll place that. I'm going to be a little bit creative for my inventory since this is not normally how you would be structuring your party for any of the speedrun routes. So I'm just doing some improv to figure out where slots my robot should be filled up. And it's kind of a tricky thing due to the way that robots work for equipment. SaGa games have a limited number of uses for items. If you get a sword, it might say you can swing the sword 20 times before it breaks. But a robot, in addition to being able to use it and get some stat bonuses, can only use it half as many times. So that's a permanent reduction when you put it on. And when you take it off, it's another half. So if you move an item around your inventory, it's just going to turn into dust. And as a result, I'm kind of like getting things pinned in place. And later on, I want to have items that are next to each other for faster menuing. So I've got to kind of plan ahead to like where things are going to get replaced down the line to make this work out. But in the story, we're going to go after our dad here, who has absconded after we caught him in Lynn's house.
Yeah, what gives? I mean, Dad's part of our family, not this other one.
Arrived at this mysterious base, and we were immediately thrown into jail as spies by none other than our dad. He is the world's worst father, after all.
Yep.
Let's go see what he has to say for himself. And this whole sequence here kind of is just continuing out of Apollo's world as that hub, so we have still got that hub as our main base with Lynn and Apollo's story, but Dad here tells us to take a break, and while we're asleep, the base mysteriously explodes. It was probably Dad's fault, but we'll see what's up here. Of course, we find out that monsters have invaded. And these monsters are getting a little bit stronger, but because our robot is really, really powerful, we're just going to mow right through them. And a couple chances to get, well, they don't want meat, but I would like to have, hopefully, some more chances at skills. And what's this? Dad's joining our team. Again, game is basically over now. We have finally gotten our main quest. Dad has come back home again.
One thing they did not figure out how to improve in this game, though, is the English text limits, too. We still have mantcores instead of manticores.
All right, so we learned gaze, which I don't think it's the good gaze that we were using in the Final Fantasy Legend 1. I think it was the first gaze, not the second gaze in your list. So
just paralysis, I
yeah.
think.
We were paying really close attention to when the Beholder gaze happened. There was actually two different ones, one of which was stone gaze, one was paralysis gaze, and they called them the exact same thing.
Yep.
And they're next to each other in the list, so good luck figuring out which one is which.
You can, yeah, in the Japanese version they do actually have different names, but sadly not for us. Got a spooky sheet ghost there.
It's extremely spooky. And we've made it out of the base, only to find out that worm, who was very embarrassed, by the way,
yeah,
had nothing to do with it. instead.
We get ambushed by the mini-boss that was standing right in front of us.
Yep. I mean, I didn't see him on the map. That was a surprise to me, too. But even more surprising news, Lynn has been kidnapped again. We just rescued her. But now she's being held in Ninja Ambush World, which, as you might tell from the name, is ninjas, ambushes, and warm sunny beaches. Go hang out. Also a neat little side area. You can get a bunch of shops down there. It's more similar to what the style was for Final Fantasy Legend 1, where there's little detours and shops in between the tower sections. Those shops are actually used in the double Esper route because you don't have enough money if you do this first. So you have to do your shopping later instead of angrily after Dad.
Hey, we heard this music not too long ago, too.
It is very sad. But our dad has exploded on a ninja and didn't even kill it. At least the ninja didn't surprise us. Getting the back-to-back surprises there is always a bad feeling. All right, back to Lynn's house we go. We get to hear how awesome your dad was to Lynn when she was growing up. Unlike his real daughter, who he has not seen for years. Not that we're bitter. We're going shopping again, but we are pretty bitter. And with that one additional Magi, it's on now to Venus's world. Enjoy the sound music.
Yeah, this game's soundtrack actually mostly has a different composer from the first one, which was Nobuo Uematsu, and this game was mostly done by Kenji Ito, but there's a few tracks that were reused from the first game, like this theme, which is called Heartful Tears, and then the title screen theme, and then and also the victory theme, too. I've always found that fascinating, too, that the 3 Saga games on the Game Boy all have different composers, too. Because the third game was actually the composer for Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, Ryuji Sasai.
All right, our budget for sad music has run out, so unfortunately we don't get to hear that song again, but we do get to go back through these worlds. Have to head through Guardian's World again, so we got warped all the way back to Apollo's world, and we didn't get the teleport skill, so gotta walk. Around past Ninja Ambush World. And we've been kind of mostly having this fantasy environment where there's like castles and swords and things, and then suddenly you go to Venus's world. And Venus is a little bit different than those previous worlds. She's got an airport, a 24-hour wedding chapel, and she's playing SimCity.
So Venus's world is Las Vegas, basically.
Basically, yes.
Yep. Oh, hey, and you get escalators that actually show you which direction they move to.
There were a lot of improvements between the two games.
Yep.
None bigger than that. This, of course, gives you absolutely no information whatsoever, except they do misspell the word here and there, which was, I guess, style choice. And so we're now on our own. Venus's world is very much the very first big jump up in difficulty in many ways. The world is much tougher. The quests are more obscure for where you need to go. They're not kind of giving you things automatically about, hey, here's these 3 things you go check out. Instead, you're kind of more on your own. And Venus as a boss is so much harder than the previous bosses that a lot of casual gamers get kind of stuck at this point if they've been cruising in Final Fantasy Legend 2. This is where you probably first have to start, getting some better gear for your characters. You might think about trying to get some of those HP and stackings for your humans and mutants, but we're going to put all of our faith into our murder robot and hope that we don't get ambushed over and over again, because those werewolves, they will ambush us a lot.
Yeah, that town we just visited, by the way, is officially called Dirty Village, too, because
it is pretty crummy.
Kind of the idea here is that Venus only allows beautiful people to live in her city, and anybody that's not beautiful is exiled to Dirty Village.
So now we're down in Venus's sewers, and there is a little bit of a payback that I have to do here, because we got that meat drop at the beginning of the game, and it was good to get that. We got a big agility bonus, and without that, we probably would have seen a whole bunch of can't runs on key, but it changed the type of my monster that I had. And so now I need to fix it up for my route later on in the game, and to do that, I need to get a drop off of this hermit crab here come up, and this guy can be kind of rude. So hopefully we get a little bit better luck on the hermit crab than we had on the evil eye in Final Fantasy Legend.
Yeah, this fight is required because you have to fight the hermit crab to get a key to get through these sewers. But yeah, we're going to be farming a meat drop from it to hopefully get first try. It's interesting too because eating the hermit meat will kind of effectively de-evolve the monster back to its starting form, the baby dragon or baby D. But just because of how the different forms link together, we need to be a baby D in order to evolve into the next really strong form that we want.
We got steel but no meat. Try again. Hermit also has a really annoying move called Shell, which just blocks all the attacks. So it can be doubly rude. All right, did not get meat again. It's about 1 in 4 chance for it. So if you get it first try, you're getting a big advantage over not eating meat. If you get it second try, you're still coming out ahead. At this point, you're kind of breaking even with not getting meat at the start. Let's see how many tries our hermit takes tonight. We learned how to resist paralysis, but we did not learn how to eat meat.
All right. Quickly, I've got a couple donations while we're meat hunting. We've got French Toast with $5. Thanks for these amazing SaGa runs. I played FFL2 by the street lamps on an evening car trip because turning on the overhead light was illegal. Gyre and puwexil, y'all are the best. Thank you for raising money for NAMI, and let's donate for those incentive. A donation to Runner's Choice, which is the still unmet super boss fight. That's still at 8:30.
Well, hopefully it is met by the time that we get this meat.
Yeah. That'll be up to chat. Cure, but not meat. We have another donation.
We want cured meat here.
Yes. Kaylor with $25. Just Agama, all caps.
Hey!
We got our meat.
Shoutouts to the Agama for inspiring that meat drop.
It is pretty delicious. And like puwexil said, this is, again, a Baby D, but it's actually a different Baby D. They have a special Baby D type for the start of the game, but this Baby D is like a level 7 monster or something that's a couple levels higher than you could have for quite some time. So you can't actually get a Baby D normally in the game, other than that starter. And it's a unique one that has like really weak stats. So they kind of did a weird thing just so you could have a dragon at the start of the game, which would be, cooler. But yeah, back to
hey, that was Sarai
our
right there too. Yeah. I think all 4 of the fiends from Legend 1 their sprites are reused for regular encounters in this game.
I don't think Byaku's in.
Oh, okay.
I know Genbu's got a turtle one. We got the Seiryu one. Trying to think about Suzaku. The birds are sillier in this game than Suzaku is.
Yeah, which is an upgrade for sure. That chest Gyre skipped, by the way, is trapped, by the way, too. I think it's just a monster.
Yeah, there's only 2 mimics in the entire game. They're both in this dungeon. They're both in the bottom right-hand corner of their respective rooms. But if you like trapped treasure chest, you might like the 7 SaGa, which we will honorarily include in the SaGa series. It's one of our mega SaGa block in RPGLB Break. We got SaGa 1, SaGa 2, we got Romancing SaGa 1 and 2, we've got Small SaGa, we got 7 SaGa, and we got Xeno SaGa. So you are covered for SaGas in this event.
And if the word 7 SaGa entices you, that run is at 2 Mountain, I believe, on late Thursday late Wednesday / early Thursday, since I'm doing comms for it.
We have finished up Venus's Source. Thankfully, never to return again. Yep. But there are other problems here in Venus's world.
Yeah, we came out through the garbage disposal, basically, too. Like, if you try to go back through that door, it says, like, no entry, garbage disposal or something.
Yeah, Flora here is so in love, she causes a volcano to erupt, which is very in love. And clearly this is something that we are going to have to deal with. Volcano is not only going to have our returning friend, the ambush werewolf, but it's also going to have the surprise snake, who is even more surprising. So we basically have a whole bunch of walking here. And in addition to probably getting some ambushes and some magi, we're also going to be getting the return of Leon. We very briefly saw Leon in Dirty Village, but he'll be chasing us throughout this entire volcano. Very, very stealthily. So stealthily that we're going to have to turn around and stare at him until he goes away. Over and over and over again. Leon is the worst.
Yeah, I admit I don't quite understand this particular story beat. Like, I know we're looking for Magi, of course, which we know are in this volcano, but I think we're also trying to help Flora, who's a woman from Venus's city, avoid having to marry an imp named Nils.
I mean, Nils seems like a nice guy. I don't know really what the problem is here. Also, the fish in this place are very drunk. There's a lot of things going on in this game right now. Very drunk.
Yep. I wouldn't put it past that robot to be on something too.
And
that's a bird.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a hawk that looks like a giant eye, floating eye robot.
Yeah, they were very creative with a lot of the monster designs, and I really actually think this is my favorite of the 3 monster designs for the Legend games. Legend 1 has a very similar style, but this is kind of more polished, and you have more designs in there. And the Legend 3 went with like a more detailed and realistic design, which looks really good, but didn't age as well compared to like these simplistic styles for the Game Boy.
Yeah, a lot of the monster sprites in Legend 3 are also a bit smaller too, because they actually have multiple copies of the same sprite on the battlefield to show how many monsters are there. But kind of the trade-off for that is that it's still a Game Boy screen, so they had to shrink a lot of the sprites to make them fit.
Oh, Leon, will you never stop following us? All right, there's Surprise Snake. Again, 25% chances. Surprise Snake is a lot more dangerous than the werewolves because of the way that the targeting works. In this game, there is a very, very high chance that our front character gets targeted, and the second character a little bit less, and the third character and fourth character really don't get targeted all that often. That's why we get our robot in the back, so that despite the fact that we're getting into fights, the occasional ambushes, we're walking through all this lava, the robot's still pretty safe. But some of the enemies just don't really care about that, and Dragon Warrior games are kind of similar in that they tend to have a little bit of a nice targeting system that favors your lead characters, so you can have armored characters in the front, but every now and then there's a character that just decides to do their own thing. And those monsters are sometimes the most dangerous. Grab a couple more items here that will be...
These are just for selling later too.
Pawning off for cash. Again, money very tight throughout a lot of this. All right, that's the dangerous Surprise Snake formation. So far, made it through unscathed. Let's see if we can solve all of our problems here. Also a combination of the Game Boy's smaller screen, but also they try to be a little bit tricksy about things for not letting you see where you're going. And so this game has a couple of areas, not just for like hidden passageways, but also dead ends that will trap you in places. So it can be a little bit frustrating navigating through, not having maps or a guide going through it. But it's a small enough game that you can at least pretty quickly try again. There we go, we got our Magi here, except this Magi is going to get stolen by Leon. I don't know how he followed us through this entire lava monster-infested dungeon. He doesn't have a murder robot.
Yeah, a little tiny micro-optimization too is opening the chest in that order too, so that Leon pushes you towards the other chest without counting as a step for fighting too.
Alright, one more ambush on the way back. We actually did pretty good for ambushes. We didn't get any surprise snakes. I think this is like our 3rd werewolf ambush, which is actually better than average. You'll typically have around 4 or so ambushes here. I guess there's still a chance for more ambushes on the way back.
7 of them.
Yeah.
They want a piece of Dan.
Yeah, whenever a monster ambushes you, they will all attack, but they have to pick their targets at the start of the round. And since they're likely going to target that first character, first one's going to kill, almost certainly, and then the other 6 just kind of futilely attack. And that's why if they don't target the first character, it's a much more dangerous type of monster.
Yeah, we're in a part of the game where it doesn't really matter that much too, because, or I should say, where the running away mechanics aren't really that relevant because we don't have a 5th character, so the 5th character slot has effectively 100 agility, and we're more or less guaranteed runs. But in parts of the game where we do have a 5th character that's dragging us down, if we have somebody die to an ambush, then that dead character slot has a lot of agility, and then we're guaranteed the run on the 2nd turn.
And now we get to go to the wedding chapel, enjoy the music. Got our title screen theme, and then you get the best song in Final Fantasy Legend 2, which is called Burning Blood. Hear this again at the end of the game as well, but enjoy here.
The best of wedding music.
that is where we decide we have finally had enough of Venus. It is time to take her down.
Yeah, we took a lot of damage on lava tiles and stuff too, so we used some potions we got earlier to heal up the robot just to make sure it can tank a hit from Venus if need be.
Hopefully, because of the different round, I'm going to have a little bit less health, so I might not survive flames guaranteed. But we will see if we can get 3 good attacks in. Of course, we get flame off the start. I'm just going to reset for that rather than hope that she does good moves. Flame is very uncommon for Venus. Mostly, we're going to see her do single target attacks against the front of the party. Status elements are fine. There's another flame attack, so we'll just reset again.
Yeah. At our losses. See what Nils has to say about this too.
Nils just standing there screaming incessantly. Alright, Charming Monster, good start there. So anything she does to the front character is not a big deal. We preferably have her charm and not kill them so that she just has more targets to choose from. Alright, there's Flame, but now it's the second round, so... Well, unfortunately not enough health because of the Esper giving me a worse item at the start of the game, but try again. We have to get a good roll on those flames to avoid dying to it. Alright, so Esper is charmed. I'm going to assume that Dan probably not going to do a lot of damage here. Alright, got 2 rounds in. Dan is very confused.
Yeah, well...
At all times. Alright, this time Venus
Natural
looks
state.
to be behaving.
Dan is confused, Dan did nothing. Both very true statements.
And Venus
There we
has
go.
gone down. Oh, Dan got warning just too late for it to be useful. So that is the move that blocks the ambushes. We're going to get it guaranteed in the next world.
Yeah.
But there were the chances of ambushes until we got the move in the world. It's about halfway through it, and there's some things we have to do on the way, so it helps a little bit, Dan. Thanks.
Everybody gets married and pieces out at this point.
Yeah, you could have gotten the teleport move there as well. For a little bit of time saving. It's not as good as getting it on Dunatus, but it does still save you a minute at that point. We'll take our warning, and we'll move on to the Dragon Racing. And Dragon Racing is an activity that we're not very good at. So we're going to have to learn real fast.
If you've got a moment before Dragon Racing.
Hey, go ahead.
All right. Just like to remind everybody that we are here to support NAMI. RPG Limit Break 2024 is coming to you live from Salt Lake City, Utah, where we are raising money for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. NAMI was formed in 1979 as a grassroots advocacy organization by a group of parents whose children suffered with serious mental illnesses, and they have maintained that focus to this day.
All right, so you're about to see how bad we're at Dragon Racing. We are now in last place, so gonna have to catch up from behind it. I picked the second fastest dragon. The faster it is, the less controllable the dragons are, and the more fights you have to do. So the faster dragons, you have more these bosses kind of pop up on the way while you're doing the race, except for the extra one they get for the second fastest versus the third fastest. For some reason, they didn't mark it as a boss, so you could just run away from it. So fortunately, it just gets treated as one of these random encounters. You'll see it pop up there, and be like, all right, hey, it's Genbu, and we're gone. All right, so 1 down, got the Magi from him. But the other 2 we're going to have to do, and this is going to be the Lamia and the Watcher. Both of them have randomly between 1 and 4 copies. We want to see a small number. There's no benefit to having more of them. In fact, usually kind of dangerous. And for the Watcher, we're also going to need to get a meat drop. So let's see how our luck looks here. Lamia, try number 1. It is 3. Let's just reset for that. 2, I'm willing to give it a go. 1, definitely preferable. There we go,
Like
1
that,
Lamia.
too.
All right, we lost our warning. Got
Stone
Stone
Gaze.
Gaze. So Stone Gaze we're also going to get guaranteed on this next fight.
Would this give us more opportunities for for certain fights that it's useful for?
Kind of. I mean, I guess we can preserve it just so that we get to keep it for a little while longer. I'm going to put Stone Gaze up there. When you have 4 moves, it'll always replace the last one in your list.
Yeah, which is an improvement over the first game, too, where it's just completely random.
All right, we got 4 Watchers,
Yeah,
so we're definitely not doing
no.
that.
No.
All right, 3 is also not a doable one. All right, there's another 4. 1 is the most common number, by the way. 2 is the second most common number. 3 and 4, not as much common.
There we go.
We got one watcher. Let's give it a try. Can we get some meat? No. All right. It's about a 1 in 6 try on the watcher. So between the watcher giving you 3s and 4s and the meat drop, usually about 6 tries at it. Dan has been flashed.
I was hoping you would have better eye meat luck than I did in my run.
I have had 22nd try once, but this is only second
not
try.
bad, yeah.
And so as a result, we've got a watcher. And now, mission getting a watcher. Most important thing of all, we have won the race because everyone else died.
Yep,
So
we win by default.
there we go.
Which is the main way that Dan wins. The Watcher is a really, really big upgrade over the other monsters we've been using before too, which is kind of justifies how we've been kind of lugging around a monster that's more or less dead weight for the hour and 3 minutes thus far.
Yeah, the Watcher's got Warning, which we also just got on the Esper. The Watcher's got Stone Gaze, which we also just got on the Esper. What we didn't get on the Esper, and probably most important of all for a little bit, is the Beam skill. We have been kind of not very good at AoE attacks, and now we finally have a way to deal with groups of enemies. Our robot's still going to focus on the single target damage. That's going to be important throughout the game, but the groups, now that we have somebody that can deal with those, we don't have to worry about, do you get 3, do you get 4, like, pretty much all of them are going to be relatively easy to deal with. Of course, we have headed now into the town of Edo, land of bananas.
Yep.
And banana smugglers. And we're going to learn all about them, along with Banana Detective Hana, who is, I hear, pretty cool. There's our beam.
Yeah, if you're wondering why bananas are illegal, we will learn very shortly.
It's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
Some quick shopping to get some more robot upgrades. Let's see how we're doing on money here as well.
While you shop, can I mention a few things?
Go ahead.
So we have met the Super Boss incentive
Nice.
for Chained Echoes with a couple of donations. We have Sorlock with $100 that says, let's get those bonus incentives going. And an anonymous $75 that put it over the line. So thank you both for your donations, and the Super Boss incentive for Chained Echoes has been met.
I guess with that, I'll change my commentator incentive to the QLEX incentive for Super Mario RPG.
It's a good one.
Well, we just picked up the Cat Claw there. We are unfortunately out of weapons that use agility from the sword line. At this point, all the really good swords start becoming strength-based. But the dagger line, which the Cat Claw is the top end of, is slightly better than the sword that we had previously. So we'll have that basically for the entire rest of the game. There's no more good physical weapon upgrades that we're going to be able to get. But there are some other weapons, and there are some mysterious doings going on. Hana wants to figure out what is going on with these banana smugglers, as he thinks Echigoe has got an inside lead on where the banana boat is being docked.
Yeah, who Hana's father lost his life in search of, as I recall.
It is a bitter tale of vengeance.
I love Echigoe's sprite work, too.
Alright, so it's in the South Harbor. Let's go intercept the banana boat. And start trying to bring these evil men to justice. A couple of nice things. Even if you didn't get that warning on the Esper, because you get it guaranteed on the Watcher here, you no longer have ambushes for the entire rest of the game. All the monsters that I'm going to be using for here on out is going to have that warning skill. So that's one big relief that you have out of the way that has been kind of building for a bit as you're going through Apollo and Venus, and it's getting scarier and scarier with all the ambushes, and then suddenly it clears up.
Yeah, and especially once we get to the point where we lose the retry mechanic, if we die in a fight too, it would be really bad to get ambushed.
Alright, so we got some laser guns here. You can tell that these are definitely some evil men stocking some serious weaponry. Laser guns. They got tanks.
Yep, pull a tank out of a treasure chest.
You know, so they got shoes. Dangerous shoes.
Yeah. Probably steel-toed.
All right, so let's go ahead, put that. I'll have to put the laser gun down here, which is not ideal, but again, we're kind of doing some improv to work around having a different party than normal. Let's do rapier on you. Dan's going to have the tank.
Do we really trust Dan with the tank, though?
Definitely not. That's why he's got it. And I'm also going to put the Aegis Shield on, but the important thing here is this ship is full of bananas. And we're going to have to put a stop to that immediately. And a little side note, the reason I put the rapier onto the other human there is because if you have only a Magi equipped, it doesn't let you use the Magi in battle. It'll give you that same no item pop-up that you have elsewise. But if you have one other thing, even if you don't plan on using it, it lets you also select the Magi. The Aegis Shield is going to be pretty useful for a couple of fights coming up. One of the stronger Magi in the game, it gives you basically great blocking ability for that character. It also gives the entire team elemental resistance after one use for the rest of the fight. So if we get Aegis Shield off once in a battle, then it's much, much easier for the whole group.
Yeah, and the tank has some similar effects, too, against physical attacks.
Yeah, it takes like an 80% chance of blocking with it. It's not quite as good as the Aegis Shield, but it'll help out, and it does some damage as an additional bonus.
I'm guessing it also counts as a firearm-type weapon where it ignores the user's stats.
Yeah, it's like a missile type. Similar to the grenades that you're using in Final Fantasy Legend 1. Here we go, we've brought evidence to the judge that we have found a ship full of bananas, and of course that means that we're going to get Etsugoya arrested and finally put behind bars this evil man who has been smuggling bananas. Hopefully will no longer plague our town.
And we have a turtle on our side, too.
We do have a Ninja Turtle as well, and we have the bad news that nothing like bananas were found in his boat.
But there were so many barrels and jars filled with bananas on
How
there.
could this happen? There must be a deeper conspiracy going on. Also, somehow our Ninja Turtle got run over by a steamroller on our way back, which I don't think this road even has steamrollers, so that's pretty impressive that we are having just the worst day so far.
Case is really getting out of hand.
Things are definitely heating up. But you know, Hana, she is not going to give up. She's going to join our team, and we're going to take down the evil man ourselves. And we kind of know where he is. We were already at Etsugoya's shop before, but now that the clerk is out of the way, we can see what was lurking in the secret basement down there. There are secrets. Dark secrets.
It's also important, by the way, that we do our shopping here earlier, too, because we lose access to the shop here once we progress the story here.
Yeah, it's actually why I used the other shop up in the northwest corner. You don't have the laser gun as easily accessible there, but we didn't have enough cash to be able to get it anyway. All right, and we find out there's not just one evil man behind banana smuggling. There's an evil man behind the evil man who is doing the banana smuggling, and he is even more evil than the other guy.
You're bad.
So very evil.
Take that as a compliment.
But Robot forgot to turn off our theme music, and now they hear us coming, so the surprise has been lost. I mean, we used to have a mute switch, but we took it off to put that laser gun on. It was worth it. All right, let's switch to this for the battle coming up. So you're going to beam over there. We can find where Kakla has gone in our menu. Okay, over there. And then Hana will probably do nothing.
We actually had a donation about that. And Demon RHK, it says $15 and says, they never tell you about the secret banana dens in the history books. They really just don't mention it.
Best to let us know that Taro here was a friend of our dad's, so that means he's probably going to explode. But in the meantime, we'll tell him to go with us. And we're going to go after that evil man who is behind that other evil man. And hopefully this time, the bananas will be stopped. I mean, it's such a tragic tale. Bananas throughout the ages have plagued civilizations. How do they think they would get away with this? Like,
yeah. I mean,
just like put anything there. We're just going to replace them all with bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. Just anyone's curious, in the Japanese version, the storyline in this world is about opium smuggling. It's based on the Chinese Opium Wars, only here it's actually in Japan instead of in China. But when they localized Saga 2 into Final Fantasy Legend 2, they just like they don't like references to religion in older games on Nintendo platforms. They didn't like drugs too. So yeah, instead of drugs, we have bananas. If nothing else, it makes the game memorable.
And we got this Gate Guardian group here. It's marked as a mini-boss, even though it's a regular encounter, which means if we see them again, they're still going to be unrunnable. It's one of the very few times that you have an unrunnable until the very end of the game. And it's really important that we recognize that, because otherwise it's basically the same as getting an ambush, and our entire party would get destroyed by them.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes, too, just because we're not guaranteed to see all of the types of enemies that are in that Gate Guardian fight, too, if we get it again. And we're also not guaranteed to run from any fight here, too, because we have a 5th character here, so we're not guaranteed runs in the first turn. So failing to run from the Gate Guardian group, we might accidentally chalk up to just a failed run from a normal fight.
Yeah, at least for me, I should have enough agility that despite our 5th character being weighing our team down, we get guaranteed runs, but we still have to recognize the group, and we got the full complement of the Knight, the Ninja, and the Stoneman, but you can have like as little as just the Stoneman by themselves or different combinations. They don't start until about halfway through this dungeon, so I know that I don't have to look for it for a couple floors, but I'll kind of peer at them and go like, is that the formation? And try and make a guess at it, because you are going to take a lot more time killing them than just running away, which you do for 99% of the random encounters in the game. So you got to be really certain that you want to take it.
I feel like this dungeon in some ways is kind of the spiritual successor to the skyscraper from the first game too, as far as having these kind of troll rooms or whatever that just endlessly force you into fights if you try to go into them.
Yeah, at this point in the game, it's certainly a lot more difficult for the navigation. Like, you have very few visual clues about where to go. Often there's multiple branching paths. Sometimes you get some treasure for them, so it's not like a complete waste of time. Same thing in the Final Fantasy Legend. Like, usually about half the rooms would have treasure. Half of them would be empty and filled with monsters, but, you know, you sometimes get some things. And they just gotta ramp up the difficulty in terms of the overall game design as things go on. Now, that's not the group because the eyeball would not be in the Gate Guardian collection. That's not it, because again, we got the eyeball in there. A couple of things that we can either sell or use. We're getting fairly close to the end for being able to purchase things. But one upgrade that I want is that samurai bow here. This gives my robot another option here for AoE attacks. Let's see, let's put that over. I guess the saber is our weakest one, so I can fit this in. I should have a reasonable-ish inventory order. And we have finally, at last, caught up with the evil man who was behind that evil man who was behind the banana smuggling.
Shogun actually does have a bit of health on him too, but, well, still dies in one turn.
Yeah, only find that there was an evil man behind the evil man behind the evil man. And yeah, he's getting way, way more evil, as you can tell.
Yep.
And he has an evil banana smuggling dolphin, which you have donated for to also have to take out here on our way up. It's just a dolphin. You can fight it.
Yep.
There is no other context given. I think you'd also stone gaze them, but we should be able to just do it with damage here. All right, Blitzed, which is the bother move from Final Fantasy Legend 1 there. That's basically a free turn, and so I think this dolphin is basically done for. You get absolutely no rewards.
Yep.
We learned to be resistant to Quake, which is probably never going to be relevant. And
I think that's the main functional reason to fight these things, too, is Esper skills.
I can't explain it.
Yeah.
You can do the fights as many times as you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't even go
I
away
love
at
the
the end.
sprite work for Magnate, too.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome, and he is also very, very dangerous. We're hoping that he doesn't use Tornado, that he doesn't do Elementals before we get the Aegis Shield up. Let's see what he does here. All right, he stabbed Dan, but our Aegis Shield has made it on, so Elemental attacks are now free turns for us. We want to see him do like Thunder, Lightning, Ice. All right, stabbing Tarot, not a big deal. Tarot is okay in this battle, but not as good as our robot or monster are.
Cyclone, I think, is the move Magnate has we don't want to see.
Yeah, Tornado in this version.
Tornado, okay.
There it is. But at this point, we're pretty deep into the fight, so we should be able to finish it in one more round. Good dodge there by the robot, and
There we
Magnet
go,
goes
nice.
down. So, the evil banana smuggler
Take note of that boss arena, by the way,
has
too.
been conquered.
We'll be seeing that again in the Live Alive run later in the week.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous reference to Japanese samurai movies where they fight on the shogun's castle top.
Mhm.
The dolphins are also kind of a recurring theme in a lot of those movies as well, but mostly it's the rooftop setting. We find ourselves now in the nasty world. This is the nastiest world in the entire game. It's got the nasty dungeon, the longest and hardest dungeon in the entire game.
Yeah, it's nastier than Dirty Village, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's filled with 10 dangerous enemy-packed floors, some really great items all over the place, some of the best gear that you get in the entire game. So you definitely want to spend quite a bit of time here grabbing it, but if you're just getting this one item, that's all you need to progress onwards, so you can leave.
Yep. They didn't hide the Magi very well.
The fun thing is after you do that entire dungeon, which probably is going to take you at least an hour or two, the very last step, there's a fairy that pops up that you saw next to that treasure chest, and she asks, you know, was it a hard dungeon? If you say no, you get warped back to the beginning of the dungeon and have to do it again. It's nasty.
Yep.
But hey, down we go to Valhalla, and this is where you would have arrived at if you had died during the game. You probably would have woken up here, got a conversation with Odin, learned about the retry mechanic, but we've done none of that. So we have not had that cutscene happen, and as a result, Odin's going to be kind of confused while we're here, but he'll still want to fight us.
Quick note while you're walking to Odin, we just cracked 14,000. You're at 14,011 now.
The fish are drinking in celebration of that milestone.
And we crossed the line with Corsay's $75 donation. I played that game for 12 years growing up, and I never found that you can fight the dolphin. What? Amazing watching you wreck this game, as always, Gyre.
Very glad people are enjoying it. These are games that a lot of people have played, but many just didn't finish it because as a handheld game, like, they get lost. You know, you went on a trip, you never got back to it again. But so many people have memories of the Final Fantasy Legends series, and it's a bit of a shame that we didn't get more Saga for a very long time in the US. Saga Frontier was the next entry in the series that we really got into, and then later on they started giving us a little trickle of the Romancing SaGa games, which you saw Romancing SaGa Remake earlier in this event. Romancing SaGa 2 is coming up, so you're going to get a whole bunch of Saga here, and you can finally catch up on what the series is all about.
I guess another thing to add about that too is that the save anywhere mechanic that's in here, because this is a handheld game, can be a double-edged sword too. Like, you can save yourself into a really bad situation. It's difficult to get out of.
We're almost to our Odin fight here. This is actually a fairly short world because you're not doing any of the side questing that you typically have. Normally the side quest is about the experience that you have with Odin and the whole retry mechanic. So we're just kind of jumping right into the walk through the castle, and hopefully Odin is going to cooperate. The bosses here continuing to ratchet up in difficulty. Just like Magnate, Odin's got a couple of moves that just like, all right, he won. Nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
And Odin's got one more really, really nasty thing that hopefully is not going to happen. So let's see how we do here. So I'm going to tank on Odin. We're going to beam the crow. I'm going to stab the horse. And that horse has a bug in the US version. They introduced a glitch in the localization with the scripting for this game. And sometimes the horse causes all of Odin's money to be deleted. And that's really bad because we don't have a lot of money to spare. All right, that's also kind of bad. We got the monster stab there. I can still do this as long as we get some lucky turns in here. Let's see if we can pull this out. Nope.
Nope. Yeah.
That's his Gungnir. It's basically a instant kill move. If you get full health, sometimes you're going to survive it on your stronger characters, but for the most part, it is a one-shot kill. You want to use that mostly on your front characters. And you also want to get the Aegis shield up, which is not going to happen because you just stabbed the human with the Aegis shield. So we know that we're not going to have that, and our elemental moves are once again going to be a little bit dangerous. You actually need to tank on you. little bit of extra damage on Odin. As long as the monster gets a turn in here, we can beam the crows down. That's less hassle going on the side. All right, monster got stabbed. We're similar-ish position, but this time we have a decoy in the front named Dan. Dan is no longer in the front. All right, so hopefully... got stabbed again.
Got Gungnir again.
It's all about that start of the fight. If we can get the Aegis shield up, then it's a lot easier. A lot of Odin's actions become ineffective.
Yeah, I believe Odin actually has less health than Magnate, but just the fact that he's got friends makes it kind of a more difficult fight overall.
All right, he used lightning there, but because the Aegis shield user uses Aegis on themselves before it uses on the party, it doesn't kill them with the lightning attack, and now the entire party has elemental resistance, so now the Gungnir is still really dangerous, but any elemental moves are free. So we are hoping that he does just lightning and ice moves. He can do whatever as long as he doesn't stab us. That's good. Ooh, down to just the robot. See if we can pull it out.
Come on, come on.
There he goes. Odin is down, and we didn't get the meat, and we got the Gungnir drop, which
wow.
I don't think has ever happened in one of the speedruns in Marathon, so that is pretty new. Other thing that we can do is teleport here with Pegasus. So this is the move that we would have had way back at the beginning of the game in Apollo's world if we had gotten that 1 in 128 chance. And I can use it here because what they do is they reset the teleport point from the left side of the world to the right side of the world after Odin is dead. So we can walk out the right-hand side a little bit faster this way. It's just a very tiny time savings to use it.
Yeah, and like we've mentioned a couple times earlier too, this kind of marks the end of the in-game retry mechanic too. So Gyre is going to need to actually do safety saves now for before fights where there's any risk.
Which is basically all of them.
Yeah.
Starting here with the final world, which is not actually the final world. But it does have what your dad calls final dungeon, which is also not actually the final dungeon because they're just bad at names.
But it does have the final town, and that's really the final town.
It is actually the final town. And it's finally time to fight this guy. Remember this very tall fellow that we haven't seen for like, I don't know, 45 minutes? He's back, and he's brought chickens. Angry, angry chickens. All right, unfortunately, the tornado is going to take out Dan, so we only get one Stone Gaze try here. Let's see if we get it round 2. All right, 0 for 2 on the Stone Gaze. It's much less likely to hit, but third try on there, it was not very good for the Stone Gaze, but you know...
Get some extra crispy chicken out of this.
It did its best. And Apollo has done what he does best. He has kidnapped the entire universe, which is really a good plan. He should probably have started with that before the chicken plan, but you know what? It's okay. We're all in this together. And we're together with our dad, who was just faking the ninja explosion. He didn't want to spend time with his daughter, so he just pretended to blow up. It's a common thing. And your dad knows about one more piece of magi, because he was lying about that too. There's not 77 pieces, there's actually 78 pieces of magi.
Yeah, and unfortunately we lost all of the others to Apollo at that point, so no more Aegis.
But hey, at least we've got these lovely screaming skulls decorating this dungeon. They're here to tell us about our car's extended warranty plan, and you cannot escape them. But you can get karate, and karate is part of the martial arts line of moves. It is usually not a particularly good move set because the way the martial arts moves works is they're very, very weak until you use up a lot of them. And like the last handful of times that you use it, down for like 90 of them to like 10, they finally get strong.
Yeah, it's supposed to kind of represent within an old school video game like this, training and getting stronger at martial arts.
But we don't actually care about what the move does, we just want to put it on our robot for stats, so it's actually one of the best items to have in the entire game.
This dungeon does also have a lot of really good optional pickups you can get to, some of which you might need to partake in if you get hit by this Sleipnir meat glitch on Odin and lose a lot of money there.
In fact, I'm going to pick up one just because I can. I don't think I even need this with the Gungnir drop also being money on top. But here is the Arthur armor. It gives you tremendously good protection, which we're just going to use for money. If I get the Sleipnir meat drop, I'll also sometimes pick up a second one here, which is the Excalibur. And Excalibur has just massive damage, which I guess I could keep the Gungnir on one of the humans. Let's see if we can do something fancy with that on the final boss to do a little bit more damage than we normally would. Might be some experimentation that we can try. The final boss is extraordinarily random, so there's very little I can do that makes it better, but it'll at least make it more interesting. I think Gungnir is the same as Excalibur in that basically has 1,000 as its minimum damage, and if you've got a certain amount of strength, it'll do bonus on top of that, but 1,000's a lot more than our Human and Esper are going to be doing right now anyway, so they would be good candidates for wielding it.
Well, before this is the debut of the Gungnir route for Final Fantasy Legend II Glitchless.
I mean, it's a very incredibly rare drop to see the Gungnir.
Just like a 1 in 128 or something, or
I think it's 1 in 64.
okay.
Whereas the Slippery Meat is like, it feels like it's 2 and 3.
Yeah.
This whole dungeon has been a build-up. I mean, we've got information about what the Magi is. We don't know what's guarding the Magi at the end of the dungeon.
Well, if this is the final dungeon, it's got to be something really, really good.
It is really good.
You know it's getting serious when the walls start getting symmetrical, too.
Yeah.
The frog is trying its best.
It's trying its best. Warmech. Warmech is back.
Warmech.
We have more Warmechs. Let's see. We got.
Because what's better than 1 Warmech in RPG Limit Break this year, but 2?
Yeah, we got karate for our run. We're going to put the flare book on Dad so we can use that. And he gets shoes because, you know, why not? Dad likes shoes.
And I adore the sprite work for Warmech in this game because it's Warmech Mark II. It's got a 2 decal on it. Yeah. They didn't quite get the name right, though. Instead of machine, it's called Warmach.
They're trying their best.
Yep.
All right, he's got the missile. Dan goes down. Can we stone gaze him? Nope, didn't get it there. Let's try that again. Warmech is very slow if we don't get the stone gazes to work. But second try, not too bad. Right on. And we get our very last piece of Magi here as well. So that is the missing 78th legendary piece, unless your dad's lying again.
Yeah, there's really a 79th one, which is the hat of the goddess or something.
We finally get to do our shopping here.
Yeah, just like in Legend 1, though, there's certain bosses in this game that aren't immune to status conditions, and like Stone Gaze.
All right, I'm giving Dan the gun there. We're doing it.
Oh, okay.
Never before attempt it. Probably never again.
Yes. We'll see if Dan trips on it and impales himself, or herself, I guess.
And we'll get a whole bunch of laser guns. All right, so there's 5 laser guns. So Dan gets a laser gun. Somewhere in here. Let's put that at the bottom. You get a laser gun, and the robot gets 3 laser guns, because the robot is amazing. We're going to put 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. Now, there's a whole bunch of backups that you can do if you're short on money. You probably have to pick up an item if you got the slippery meat, but you can still be a little bit tight on recovery items if you don't pick up another item on top. And you can do things like not get all the laser guns and try to trade them around and things, but we're making it nice and easy on ourselves, getting plenty of recovery items here. So we'll have tents, which are basically a trip to the inn. We'll have elixirs, which are elixier than the average elixir.
Yeah. And also, as far as why we gave 3 laser guns to the robot, it's because, like we said at the beginning, robot stats are completely based on what equipment they have on. So just equipping them with lots of endgame weapons like that give them a lot more hit points and other stats.
Yeah, robot specifically wants to have immense amounts of agility for the build that we're doing, because we're using an agility-based dagger, the Cat Claw. So the more agility bonuses we have, the more damage that will do for every single attack. Also, some of these laser guns may have some additional purposes here. We go to the real final world and the real final dungeon. This time, they mean it.
Yeah, the central shrine, I think this area is called, at the center of the kind of beanstalk tower area we've been using to cross worlds.
That's also where we get to find out Apollo is back. We give the heart to our eyeball. Apollo's pretty tough.
Yep, he's already used the 77 Magi.
He is not easy to defeat, and he is perfectly protected by the power of the Aegis Shield. But as we know from the Aegis Shield, it protects against weapons, it protects against elemental damage, but it does not protect against ranged non-elemental damage. So we're going to be doing a whole lot of damage here while he's taunting us, and this is going to make the fight a lot easier.
Yeah, we're kind of effectively skipping the second half of the fight by doing this.
Yeah, Apollo's got like 25,000 health, which is absolutely ridiculous for this point, but because we are doing all this damage up front, he'll immediately jump into his second phase and be pretty close to being a nearly scriptable fight. Just gotta wait for the music to start.
Yep. Shows off his stylish hair there.
I like the cape. The cape's really nice.
Oh, yeah.
It's a much better cape than the I think the magicians and the vampires have in Final Fantasy Legend 1. Alright, there's the music. That means there's going to be the stabbing soon. We need to see who does Apollo stab.
Kind of the only real meaningful RNG in this fight.
I get to Gungnir.
Ooh.
This will probably have horrible consequences that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Alright. So Apollo is into phase 2. He is stabbing the robots. So I think we will do the heart here. You need to have one person and Dad alive at the end of the fight. Wow, that Gungnir is not very good. Back to laser guns. I am disappointed in this Gungnir.
Shoutouts to the sprite work too.
It's
Melty
very
Apollo.
similar to Mystic Quest, which we'll see a bunch of.
Yep.
But because you get the power of the heart, his flare has been reverted. This actually loses time because you actually want to have as few characters alive besides that one person. But your dad has protected us from these explosions. And now your dad has exploded 5 times so far in this game.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, the main outcome we do not want to see there is Dad getting stabbed. Then we have to do some kind of slow recovery.
Even if anybody else gets stabbed, if that would have been your last person, Dad's the only one alive. It does not work. You know what? We could put our dad together with the power of the Magi and this tape that we found in the back. It is very effective. All right, now the entire planet is exploding, and we don't have enough tape for that, so we're going to have to have the Goddess join our team. We're into the final descent down. At this point, they make everything unrunnable, which is completely different from the rest of the game. So now we have to do every single fight that we see going through here. And here's why we got all of those recovery items, because these are just the hardest enemies in the entire game, non-stop with the encounter rate that you saw back in Final Fantasy Legend 1. I'm not doing any saves coming. I know, stone gaze twice. That's not going to be helpful.
One for each eye.
The Espers try their best, but they are very random.
Yeah, the end of this game has a really similar feel to the end of the first game, only you're going down instead of up. And you can't run from anything. This does, however, mean that our Esper and our human are finally actually going to get a lot of stat gains and hopefully some potentially useful skills on the Esper's part, even though we're kind of past the point where a lot of them would actually be useful.
Yeah, there's not really a lot here that the Esper can contribute to the final boss fight. But, you know, just being there, that's enough for us.
Yeah, and Isis is like 99 for all of her stats too. Is very, very strong, and kind of is our main fighter for these fights. But we do need to keep a pretty close eye on how many flare charges she has, because if we lose count, then get a fight when she's out. Because I don't believe you can actually use items in battle in this game. So
nope,
we would be
stuck in there.
Yeah, we would be in a pretty bad spot, and that's also a little challenging too, because most of these floors are conveyor belts too, and so we're getting pushed forward at high speeds, and We need to be pretty on it as far as pressing start to go into the menu to use elixirs on Isis.
All right, we got poison resistance. We got some puddings.
Hey, puddings!
They're back.
Yep, and tastier than ever. So yeah, this fight, because you have to fight everything in the final descent here, there's a lot of just little optimizations here and there for specific formations, because like there are some monsters here and there that don't just die to Isis's flare, and you'll have to do something else to mop them up.
Yeah, it's really bad if you have to go to a second round. Like, you're getting attacked, which is already kind of a not good thing. But then you've got the resource use, because you've got potentially a second flare you might need to use. You might have to use, different moves to get people kind of queued up here. So I'm just kind of predictively going off the ones where I think, okay, this particular monster is more likely than others to survive flares, so we're going to attack in advance. There's no auto-retargeting. So if you attack somebody who is already dead, it just says ineffective. So you have to predict in advance who is going to need what.
Our googly-eyed salamander.
Yeah, well, they do give you upgraded monsters. There's the same graphics that you've seen for pretty much the entire game. A couple of the more difficult tiers of monsters don't show up as like a beginner type, but about halfway through, you've kind of seen all of the monsters that are going to be there, except for a couple of bosses.
One very, very special totem pole.
Yeah, one boss is going to be kind of familiar looking, even. So we got Tian Lung here, and randomly 1 through 4 Tian Lungs, which is just extremely rude, but we got 1, which is great. We want some Tian Lung meat. Alright, monster did not die, that's the very most important thing, but then the robot missed! That Cacklaw. Alright, so extra flare used there, and we got the Tian Lung meats, and now our Watchers turned into a butterfly. And there's a bunch of different monsters I could use for this last stretch. Butterfly is the most predictable in terms of being able to acquire it, which makes it a pretty safe choice. But I would say probably only about the third best monster. Those slimes that we had in Final Season 1 are actually still kind of the best here. Madam Butterfly does have a similar move to Melt, which is called Absorb, but it's not as strong. They learned how to be weak to ice moves.
Yeah.
This is incredibly good.
That is so Dan.
I'm going to say the Hydra is probably more likely to live than the Spider. So have that prepped up for a bow attack. Okay, didn't learn how to explode. I mean, maybe that's an upgrade.
Yeah.
I don't know, I might keep that one.
Yeah, I think we got to try it.
Also, see if we get a Selfix here off the robot. Nope. Selfix is a really good move that makes my robot a little bit weaker, but also gives me regen. And that can be super useful. Stan's the one that's got the moves, so we'll make Explode be our first choice here.
I mean, Dan has learned from his father well, or her father well, yes?
Dan's learned how to charm things. Charm's pretty good, like, about around Venus's world or so. After that, not so much. Venus is where you can actually use a lot of status elements pretty effectively. That's one of the ways that people can deal with that boss, but one of the more obscure ways to kind of figure out. Most people are going to try to just do it with pure raw damage, which is hard to make work. Still getting lots of meat here, but we're not going to eat it. Sometimes I'll play meat roulette, where we just see what we end up with our characters eating every single piece of meat that we can. And once you recognize you got a good one, then you stick with it, but you might get to the final boss and be just very unhappy with your monster.
Yeah. I think when you ran this for Limit Break before, you were using a route that had 2 monsters in it too, so the second monster is just chowing down on everything at this point to try to get something good.
Yep, there is one other guaranteed upgrade, which is going to be Fenrir coming up. You get 2 high-level monsters, but if you have more than 2, there's not a meat that takes you up to that top tier. Unlike Final Fantasy 1, you have to eat a monster of a certain caliber in order to advance. Alright, speaking of Fenrir, let's see if we got 1, 2, 3, or 4 Fenrirs. 4 is a no-go, so...
Yeah, it's a little too many.
We want 1. 2 you can kind of sometimes make work. but I'm not going to try with more than 2, and even 2 is usually kind of dodgy. All right, we'll give 2 a try. Let's see if Dan can explode. Alright, there's tornado, so Dan's probably not exploding the way that we hoped. Double tornado is a reset on there. No, the other Fenrir did nothing, so we can probably pull this out. So you're going to Cat Claw. I'm going to Heart with Isis here. Heart gives me a full recovery. But then he tornadoes again, so didn't really help that much. Yeah. And Fenrir goes down. So that is it for the mini-bosses. We're on to the final floor of the game. If you were here at the start when I was scrambling up the RNG, well, this is where we were at. And this is the last stretch of the final boss. Just hoping to get some really good walks in here. Where we might want a samurai for that. Still, but maybe see a Selfix drop. Selfix will bump up my chances in the final boss from about a 60% chance of success to like 70%. Still not guaranteed, but it definitely helps. All right, Dan's less charming now.
All that spinning around and getting dizzy and Fenrir's tornadoes.
Sometimes you can use that heal move to recover, but because I use the heart, I don't need to. Oh, he blocked. Rude. Can't block laser guns, though.
Yeah.
We found that out on Apollo.
All these fights right here are just why the money routing in the late game to buy all these really expensive healing items is so important too.
And I actually got several more than you would typically have for a speedrun there, which allows me a little bit of backups in case, you know, Dan problems. Alright, Musashi's probably on the tough end, so all in on Musashi. Teamwork. All right, so we're charming again.
Okay.
He'll make up his mind eventually. Let's see. Intercept does have a chance of some good drops, so I'm okay with seeing those. The G4s are a little bit more likely, I think, to drop the good upgrades for our robot. Karate would be another one to have a second copy of. That would be a decent bonus. The Selfix is the one that I really want for the regen, but Karate would give me a little bit more damage and safety. And did nothing.
Say what you will about Dan, at least she entertains us.
Dan has done very well today, and we are now at the final boss. Good luck to us all.
Yep. This is a pretty different final boss than the run from the first game, at least in the speed run.
Yeah, this one is pretty terrifying.
Yep.
We're going to start off with Phase 1. There's all these cannons. The cannons will be slowly broken off by 1,000 damage at a time. Also, Isis is left to fight another one of these, so we only have our 4 party members here. We do not have our guest character. And this is why we want to have some health on the humans so they can try and survive this. Dan's going to do her best to make it through this. All right, 2 cannons broken. I think we'll probably make everyone into Phase 2 now. There's 3 cannons broken. After 3 turns, the cannons regenerate as well, so you have to be pretty fast getting through these.
Yeah, I believe on Phase 1, all the cannon damage is unavoidable, effectively, too.
Yep.
So we want to get lucky and go fast and break cannons before Arsenal attacks with them.
Now, Phase 2 is Small Smasher. This is actually the easiest phase. Small Smasher doesn't do a lot of damage. It isn't super accurate,
and
so it gives us a chance
to
to
block it with the tank
recover
too, if you have one.
Yep, it's just a physical attack. Well, one character down, that is our human out, but we still have Dan, so we still have a chance. Well, we had a chance, but you know what? It's time to go in hard.
Yep. Just like
Let's
the
see what
first game,
happens.
Legend 2 has a really nice final boss theme called Save the World.
Big Smasher, 99 to 639 damage to the entire party at random. That is a really good
that's
roll
very
right there.
weak, yeah.
So we get a guaranteed second hit with our robot. Well, second try. And Arsenal can just go twice in a row and do 639 damage back to back. And you only have 999 health. So it does not go well. I don't think I can heal robot here.
Yeah, get ready on time, by the way, too, hopefully.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Depends on this roll. Ooh, good for Madam Butterfly. All right, so we need these absorbs to just go in a chain. We'll see if Arsenal eventually crumbles.
Yeah.
We lost the cat claw damage, which is the big damage source that we had. 135 is really good there.
We really just we don't want to see Arsenal get 2 turns in
And
a
there
row.
we go,
And
time.
didn't. Nice.
Arsenal has gone down. That was a really, really good one we had.
That
A
was
lot of
good,
low
yeah.
rolls with the Big Smasher. Again, that's about a 60% chance of beating that with all the preparations that you do. It's nothing to make it any better than that, but we have the best thing of all. We have saved the entire world, and as a reward, we are going to get kicked out of the dungeon.
Yeah.
Never to come back.
We
again.
saved the world from the world's own security system. I admittedly
wasn't
don't
really explained
Yeah,
how,
I don't really understand this.
It was
part.
going on. I think we just broke into the center of the world for no good reason. But at long last, after many hours, we are finally going to be reunited with our dad. And that is the real Final Fantasy legend. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that run through there. Did you have a good time
I
with
did,
Final
yeah.
Fantasy Legend 1 and 2 back to
Yes.
back now that we have showcased the opening 2 games in the Saga series? I'll do a couple of shout-outs here. Another shout-out to some people that you heard from the first game. Catclaw and Baku Zero really contributed a lot to the Final Fantasy Legend games. Catclaw for doing a lot of the translation from the Japanese resources that were very hard to get back in the day. Baku Zero, a Japanese runner that continued to do Saga games for many, many years. A lot of the routes and ideas and inspirations started with Baku Zero. There's been a lot of improvements over the years since then, but those are kind of like some of the early inspirations that got the bones of the routes that you see for both of these games started. And so it's great that they have been able to get done in these events. I had a great time with the Final Fantasy Legend. It was wonderful seeing the little bit different storyline with our slimes as opposed to the traditional any percent where you just kind of saw everything. This is more of the glitchless playthrough. You got to see from beginning to end everything in the Final Fantasy
Akitoshi
Legend.
Kawazu, the main brains behind this series, too.
Yep. And you actually get credits in Final Fantasy Legend. So
Yes.
that's another big upgrade that I forgot to mention. This time they remembered to put the credits
This
in.
time they're actually feeling good enough to put their names on this game.
And there's some really fabulous remakes of this series that unfortunately never got US releases. So the first game got a remake for the Wonder Swan, which was a handheld console. It got it back up to about a Game Boy Advance type of graphics and feel. They fixed a lot of the issues. They didn't fix the saw glitch, so I think it was intentional. Despite puwexil's claims, I think that is actually intended by the developers to saw the final boss there. And for Final Fantasy Legend 2 and 3, they have a DS remix of these. And they went all out making them 3D games, so they're very different in terms of style. You can see the monsters when you're running around the world, so you can actually dodge around them. They added a whole bunch of content to both Final Fantasy Legend 2 and 3, but unfortunately never got official US releases.
Please change that, Square Enix, if you're watching.
Yeah, hopefully people will write and tell them how much they love Saga games and Classic Saga and would love to see more of the Classic Saga that they already have.
Yeah.
Well, that is all I've got. puwexil, any final words for you?
Well, we're not, I guess, yeah, I had a great time with these first 2 runs being a part of them, but we are not done with the Saga runs in RPG Limit Break 2024 yet, because closing out the Saga action today, we're going to have Ori and Skydragon coming back on stage to do a run of Romancing SaGa 2 Remaster, which is a remake of one of the previously Japanese-only Saga games that was originally on the Super Nintendo.
That is going to be fabulous. Hope you all enjoyed, and thank you very much. I'm Gyre.
I'm puwexil.
And see you later.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Gyre and puwexil. Thank you, puwexil, for that great run, that great game. This is me leaving you. I'm going to run some Twitch ads to remember me by, and then we will be doing an interview with the Chained Echoes runners. And, yep, I will see you all later in the marathon.
Welcome back to RPG Limit Break 2024, live from Salt Lake City, raising money for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. My name is S. Grunt, and I'll be taking you through the next run here, which if you enjoyed the runs of Final Fantasy Legend and Final Fantasy Legend 2, or yesterday's run of Romancing SaGa Minstrel Song, I got news for you. The saga will continue with the next run of Romancing SaGa 2 Remaster. But before that, we've got an interview lineup for the run after that. Chained Echoes, our very own Vonnie Vaughn will be interviewing moonblazewolf and FerricFox, who will be doing that run. Take it away.
Alrighty. Thank you very much, Grunt. Hello, everyone, yet again. I am Vonnie Vaughn, and with me I have moonblazewolf and FerricFox. We're going to be talking about their run of Chained Echoes coming up here in just a minute. But before we do, I want to talk prizes, not only because I like to, but because we're switching over to another block now. There's going to be the block that is currently going on is going to be ending as soon as the next game starts. And just as a reminder, what's in that block is the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster collection here for the Switch, as well as the four character types from Final Fantasy Legend 2. You see those perlers there. As a reminder, we always have our main prize here, which is this big old Buster Sword, $250 cumulative donation throughout the marathon to get eligible for that. And then, of course, we have our our Mimi mascot custom Game Boy Advance. Thank you for the catch there. This is really cute, fully functional, works great. $75 cumulative donation. This is through the first half of the marathon. Now, let's talk about what's coming up in this next block. You might have noticed this incredibly adorable cube plushie that I have here, this Chocobo. This is something you can get eligible for in this next block. We also have, and you see up in front of me here, we've got the Romancing SaGa 2 and 3 for the Switch. Those are going to be available for this next block, which goes all the way through the end of Dragon Valor. To get eligible for this, minimum $5 donation, and for the SaGa and 2 and 3, each $10 donation to get in on those. So, alrighty, as much as I want to cuddle this, we're going to go ahead and shift the focus away from that. You just sit there and be good. Okay, alrighty. Blaze, Ferric, how we doing?
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi.
Good to see you, yeah.
Yeah. So you are going to be running Chained Echoes, and you're going to be doing co-op. But before we get to that aspect of it, tell us a little bit about Chained Echoes, what the game is all about, so folks know what to expect.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll just say, first of all, I'm really excited to show off the glitchless category of this run tonight.
Yeah.
I ran the glitched version last year at RPG Limit Break 2023. We really didn't get to see much of the game. And this is a beautiful game. It has amazing music. It is just one of my favorite games the last couple of years. And I'll just say, first and foremost, I'm really excited y'all get to see a lot more of it tonight. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. So Chained Echoes, I mean, it's a really neat game. It's basically an homage to a lot of the, I'd say the maybe SNES console games of the 90s. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of really cool pixel sprites. The gameplay is very fast and zippy. Gets a lot of style points for some Easter eggs and some throwbacks to some of those old games. So super appealing. And I'm a big RPG player. You're a big RPG player. So it kind of just came together that way.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Now, like you said, it was done last year, and you did the run. But it's going to be the two of you here. You're going to be doing it co-op, but it's not going to be quite co-op in the traditional sense like you see with other speed runs, where the two of you will be playing simultaneously or things like that. It's going to be one of you doing one part of it and the other one doing the other. So what I wanted to ask about that specifically is what went into your collective decision making when it came to who was going to do which parts, who was routing which parts, kind of deciding how that was going to go. Tell us about your thought process there.
Yeah, so I'll let Ferric go first because you're doing the first part of the run, so maybe kind of talk about that.
Good. That's good.
Yeah. So, you know, we've actually both run the game individually, so we both know the game very well. And it was, you know, it kind of hit at a phase when, like, Blaze had played it quite a bit, and he was, you know, very interested. He said, you know, Ferric, you really need to try this game. This game's really cool. And it was like late 2022 when this came out. I was really, you know, hitting the tactical RPGs hard. I was, you know, Triangle Strategy, Diofield Chronicle, Tactics Ogre, like they all came out at the same time. So I was very busy with all of those. So he kind of got it going, and I saw him playing it. It looked super fun, so I picked it up too. So we both know the complete run. I don't know who originally had the idea to do it co-op. Was that you?
Well, I think it was kind of just like I think we'll talk about this maybe more in a minute, but it's just really cool to see two people who are really passionate about a game, run and commentate it together, and you know, stuff like that. So I mean, we've raced it against each other before as well, but you know, co-op is really just a really fun experience when you have two really passionate people kind of sharing the experience together of playing the game, and we just thought that would be something really fun to bring to RPG Limit Break.
Yeah. Now, again, so you're running the first half, you're running the second half. Was there kind of a strategy there? Is one of you kind of stronger in one area of the game than the other?
I suppose you could say that. When we were kind of talking about how we were going to split the run, I suppose I'm a little more chaotic of the two, so I was like, we can just toss the controller back and forth like every 10 minutes.
I appreciate the self-awareness, Ferric.
Blaze was like, actually, let's not do it that way. So, the first part of the game, it's a little bit more tactical. You're learning a little bit more of the combat. A lot of the basic fights are a little bit more complex, so you're sort of working your way through those. Some of the routing is fairly challenging. I would say the second half is much more puzzle-based. Some of the boss fights are a little bit more tactical. So what would you think?
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. The first act in particular is extremely combat heavy. One of the fun things that we were able to work on is really kind of like hyper optimizing a lot of the Act 1 combat.
Okay.
Because you don't have a lot of options, but you do have some options. So it's interesting to sort of see like the trade-offs in this relatively early part of the game where there's not a lot of power available. So how do you take the things that you do have and sort of like utilize them to the best extent?
Maximize your resources.
By the time we get to the second half of the run, which is where I'm at, like all of the main strategies are pretty well established. My combat, I would say, except for a couple boss fights, is not as dynamic as a lot of what Ferric has to do in terms of kind of just reading the fight, you know, kind of counting damage, different things like that. And then, yeah, I get a lot more of like the environmental puzzles, I would say.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And I would say both of us, you know, having done the complete run, both of us, we could have split it either way. I could do the second half, you could do the first half, so we kind of just decided to do it that way.
But, you know,
it's worked out nicely.
The way you just described it makes it sound like you're setting the table and you get to eat.
Yeah,
a little bit.
A little bit. Okay.
Yeah. I will say, just to give people something to look forward to, the final boss fight is incredibly cool and also incredibly stressful. So I guess I kind of get to take that on a little bit and take that one for the team.
That's your part of the fair share.
But it's got a lot of style points, so you do get that.
Oh, nice. For sure. Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, we're live.
Oh, the stream's back. Okay.
Sorry about that.
My bad. That was a little unprofessional, but
we were just refreshing.
Yeah, we were just trying to get things
we're
pulled up.
checking the stream.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I was checking the score of the hockey.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. All right. So welcome back, everyone. If you were with us before, we had our unscheduled interruption. I was talking with moonblazewolf and FerricFox here about their run of Chained Echoes that they're going to be doing a little later on. Now, we were talking about how that is a co-op run. So you are essentially speedrunning partners, but you are also IRL partners. You two are a couple and have been for quite some time, I learned. I learned the other day. So I want to ask you about that. How does the fact that you two are in a relationship, do you think maybe that helps you when it comes to doing cooperative speedrunning? Do you think maybe it's kind of an obstacle when it comes to speedrunning? Talk about what you think about that.
You can lead off with that.
Definitely not an obstacle ever.
Toss it in his lap.
The way the body put that, I was like,
I'll just defer to Blaze here. Yeah.
I'll fall on that landmine.
I'll go as deep as you want to go. So.
No, I mean, it's like, honestly, like, we're kind of like an old married couple a little bit. Yeah. Like, we complete each other's sentences anyway, even if it's not speedrunning. Oh. So, like, I think it'll be fun to watch. I think it'll add a fun, like, commentary dynamic for sure.
Sure,
and, like, obviously, we're just incredibly supportive of each other. It's very easy to bounce ideas off of somebody that you live in the same house as too. So like we kind of really riffed through a lot of stuff like in pretty short order, just like throwing stuff against the wall and is this going to work? What do you think of this? You know, what does this idea sound to you? And I don't know. I think that's probably just like the main thing is like being able to have a comfortable conversation about a run that you're working on with somebody else, because a lot of times in speedrunning communities, even good speedrunning communities, it can be really hard to sort of have that level of, you know, openness to talk about like what you're working on and like what you think might be a good idea. And I mean, for us, that was always very easy. So that would be one thing I would kind of highlight. I mean, what do you think?
Cool.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I would say first of all, like we both really like the game. So that's kind of the starting point. And then kind of working from there, you kind of just get this real-time feedback because when we're both actively working on the speed run, stuff's going to come up. You have ideas, you want to test stuff, you test it out, you think it's good, bounce an idea off Blaze, he tests it out, oh yeah, that's cool, so you integrate it into the run. Or vice versa, Blaze will have an idea, I'll go, I'm not sure about that, you can kind of time it out. And then, you know, things are, with any speed run, you know, Chained Echoes isn't terribly RNG sensitive, but it does have some RNG. So, you know, you might have a really good sequence of events with like really good RNG, and you might think that's the way to go, thumbs up. And then I test it, I'm like, oh, you know, that kind of didn't work out. So, so a lot of back and forth. On the whole, though, I would say very positive. And again, it does allow for opportunities like this because we're in the same space. You know, if we're on Twitch, we can stream together, we can throw to each other's streams, we can do the co-op thing, we can do races. So it's just really fun and dynamic, and you know, highly recommend it. Kind of like I was saying a little bit before the break, Blaze got into this run before I did, and then it kind of turned me on to this. So like, if you're a speedrunner and you have a partner at home and you really like a run, just kind of keep playing it around them a lot, and they might get really interested in it. So I would say that's a big plus as well too.
And I'll just quickly add too, like, I mean, Ferric found multiple things that I never would have figured out on my own too.
Nice.
So like, I mean, I guess, you know, I've been running the game for longer, but the run itself could not have gotten to the point that it did without you as well.
Oh,
so,
thanks. Yeah, and you know, brains just work differently, and people see things different. And
different perspectives.
Different perspectives. Yeah, I'm definitely a tinker and a fiddler. Like I'm not afraid to kind of take a step back from things and sort of rework them. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does, it's kind of fun to discover. So,
yeah. I noticed when we were doing the first part of the interview, there were some people in chat that were feeling the jerseys you're wearing. Yeah,
nice.
They are definitely very snazzy. Just talk a little bit about what these are about.
Yeah, so this is a limited run of Team Fastest First hockey jerseys. That it's a marathon group that I started back in 2019. Ferric has also volunteered and done a bunch of runs on there as well. And yeah, we just had a really cool, we have an incredible graphic designer. His name is Tim. We worked on this kind of like combination esports jersey, hockey jersey. And, you know, they came out really well. The community really responded very positively to them.
That's cool.
I think a lot of them probably don't like hockey as much as I did. So when they kind of came out, they're like, why are the arms so wide? I'm like, it's a hockey jersey. You generally wear pads underneath.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Swimming, yeah.
So, no, but, you know, it's just, we have a lot of really talented people in our community, speedrunning and otherwise. And, you know, we like to represent that when we go out to do other events as well.
As you should.
Yep.
Yeah. Back to Chained Echoes. Let's talk about the incentives that you've got for this run.
Sure.
I know there were a couple that got met, but I still want you to talk about them so that people can see what it is that they've been donating for. But I believe there's a bid war that's still open as well.
Yep,
Tell me about that.
So we've got multiple incentives. One is what's called turtle races. Turtles racing. Whoever thought of such a thing? But early on in the game, when we first kind of get to the primary city, there's a little side spot that you can go down, and there's 4 turtles that are racing. You can set them off on their way. Very cool music, super fun to watch. That incentive has already been met, so thank you so much for that. There's an active bid war right now. The bid war is for choosing the colors of the mechs. So, you know, this particular game, there's a lot that takes place on the ground with your characters, but kind of later in the game and more through the second half of the game, they get what's called sky armor, which is basically mechs. So you do have a color option for those. So if you have a preferred color, please put towards that bid war. And, you know, right now we just have the colors listed by the actual color, like purple, blue, red, but the colors in-game are actually Easter eggs that can kind of point to other pop culture references. So
neat.
We will reveal those when the final color is actually chosen.
Stay tuned for that.
And then we have one final incentive, which is going to be Blaze.
Yeah, I'm really excited to show off this incentive. So Chained Echoes has a ton of optional side content that even in the any % glitchless run, we're not going to be able to show off. All bosses is a category that I really got into for a while, and there's a whole chain of optional bosses that you can fight leading up to an ultimate super boss in the run. So we're not doing any of the all bosses stuff, but I did get accepted the incentive to show off the super boss, which is something that even if you've played the game to completion, there's so much between the end of the game and when you would actually fight the super boss that people who have played Chained Echoes and are familiar with it may still not have seen that fight, and it's a really cool fight.
So wow.
Very fun to watch.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that'll be something more to look forward to as well. One last question for you before we get out of here. Anthony Edwards.
Swish.
Yep.
That was fun.
The three of us had a great time watching Game 7 between the Nuggets and the T-Wolves last night. So it's Dallas and Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. We're thinking what, T-Wolves in 4?
Let's say 5. We'll throw those
pushing
you have little faith.
I don't want to be overly confident when it's the first time in 20 years that they've gotten to the Western Conference Final.
Exactly.
T-Wolves in 7. I'll call it right here.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right,
I could go for another Game 7 like last night.
Yeah, exactly.
Boy. And if it turned out the way it did, then absolutely.
We'll take it anytime,
Well, I tell you what, Moonblazewolf, FerricFox, it's been a pleasure, both the first and the second half of this interview.
Thank you so much.
And both of you, best of luck on your run tonight.
Thanks, Bonnie.
All
righty.
Appreciate it.
Grunt, back to you.